God is reminding some of us today, I have plans for you. And God's plan is the best.
In a time like this, when everything seems to be falling apart and the center is no longer holding up, more than ever, we need words of inspiration, motivating words, and liberating words to power through our day. Welcome to another episode of the Word of the Day podcast. Our goal here is to soar you to greater heights in life.
Welcome to another episode of the Word of the Day podcast. And the Word of the Day is, God has plans for you. God has plans for you. He created the world with a plan. He had a plan for day and night. He had a plan for heavens and the earth. He had a plan for the land and how the sea is going to set. He had a plan for the moon, for the birds of the air, for the fish, for the animals, and he had plan for the humans. God has always had a plan. God loves his plan. His plan is good because of the purpose it serves. God's plan is good because of the hope it will give. God's plan is good because of the life it will save. And God's plan is just simply good because God, the creator of heaven and earth, called it so. God has a plan for you. He has a plan for everything that is on this earth. He has a plan for you. Why are we even talking about plans? This is the time where it starts setting into some of us that we didn't fulfill all our plans for the year. We look into, we planned a lot for this year. One thing happened. Maybe COVID-19, maybe we tried, but we couldn't achieve all our plans. The Bible says in Proverbs 19:21, it said, many are the plans in the minds of a man, but it is the purpose of the Lord that will stand. The purpose of the Lord that will stand. God has plans for you. Remember, I said his plan is good because of the purpose it serves. Because his purpose for your life will save lives. Because his purpose for your life has an end, has a future. His purpose for your life will glorify God. God has plans for you. Things may not go well. Your plans might not have gone well, but God still has plans for you. Jeremiah 29 verse 11 said, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. For plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. God is telling you today, he has planned for you. God is reminding some of us today, I have plans for you. And God's plan is the best. It's not just a cliche. God's plan is the best because of the purpose it serves, because of the life it will save, and because of the hope his plan will give. God has plans for you. Please don't give up. Don't give up. Don't just throw it in the tower because you couldn't fulfill most of your plan for this year. God has plans for you. We just need to look unto him and ask him, God, what is your plan for me? Or what are your plans for my life? God has plans for each and every one of us. We just have to figure out what is God's plans for me. Not what is just my plans for myself. Not what is my will for my life. But what is God's plan for your life? We usually recite the prayer that will be done on earth as it is in heaven. God's will, God's plan has to be fulfilled in your life. The question is, are you going to try to figure out what God's plan is for your life? Are you going to lean into God's plan? Are you going to let God's plans for your life serve his purpose? Are you going to let God's plan for your life settle? For some of us, it is very difficult if you've not given your life to Christ. It is very difficult to fulfill God's plan, to live God's plan, if you've not given your life to Christ. I'm encouraging you for us to buy into that plan that God has for us. I'm encouraging you to give your life to Christ, to let him rule you, to let his plan work for you. God has plans for us. Are we going to let those plans serve his purpose? Are we going to let those plans be fulfilled in our life? Or are we just going to be busy with our own plan? Remember, Proverbs 19:21. Many are the plans in the minds of a man, but the purpose of the Lord that will stand. It is the purpose of the Lord that will stand. What is God's purpose for your life? What is God's plan for your life? What is his will for your life? Those are the things we need to start pondering on. God's plan is the best. God's plan will serve his purpose. God's plan for our life will save lives. God's plans for our life will produce hope. The hope that we need to continue. The hope that we need to move on. The hope that we need to move into next year. God has plans. Are you going to buy into those plans? Or are you just going to lean on yours? Are you going to lean into your understanding and just go into the new year with it? Or are you going to make an adjustment and buy into God's plan? I'm encouraging you this time. Lean into God's plan. God has plans for you. You can go with your own plan just as we have been. But we've seen where it has gotten some of us. But it's time we start following God's plan. It's time we start asking questions. God, what is your plan for my life? What are your plans for my life? What are your purpose for my life? Our purposes for my life. What is your plan for my life here on earth? God has plans for us. Let's start following the plan of God. I pray that as you continue to see God's face during this period, as you continue to lean into God's plan, as you continue to seek the face of God to make sure you are in tune, you are in line with his plan, I pray that he will shine light in your life. I pray that he will give you hope. I pray that his plan will start working for you, that he will reveal his plan for you, and he will make your way bright. I pray the blessings of God upon you this season. I know the devil is trying to show us a lot of stuff, feed us with bad news, feed us with a lot of news, but I'm just letting you know God has plans for you. Even in the midst of darkness, he has plans for you. Even when it seems to be no hope, God has plans for you. Even when the doctors are giving you negative results, God has plans for you. Even when everything looks rosy, everything looks good, God still has plans for you. God has plans for you. God has plans for your children. God has plans for your family. God has plans for your husband, for your wife. God has plans for you. You just have to lean into God's plan. You just have to figure out what is God's plans for your life. God has plans for you. This holiday, keep pondering, what is God's plans for my life? As you set out to start making plan for the years to come, seek God's face to understand his plan. May God continue to help you. May God continue to reveal to you his plans for your life. And may he continue to strengthen you, to give you the strength to follow his plan. Thank you once again for listening to me. God bless you and remain blessed and inspired.
Word of the day, word of the day, word of the day, word of the day, word of the day.